The other day, CNN contributor Van Jones posted a video sharing something personal about the late Charlie Kirk. Here's what Van Jones had to say.
Hey guys, I've decided I'm going to do something. I'm going to share something personal that I wasn't sure I was going to share. But I think it's important. Charlie Kirk and I were not friends at all. In fact, the last week of his life, we were beefing hard, beefing online, beefing on air. But the day before he died, he did something that shocked me. He sent me a personal message, calling for personal dialogue, wanted me to come on his show. He said we could be gentlemen together. He said we could deal with our disagreements agreeably. And in the past week and a half, just watching people talk about civil wars and censorship and all this stuff coming out of his death, I just thought it was important to let people know, don't put that on Charlie Kirk, because the last day of his life, he was reaching out to have not more censorship, more conversation, more dialogue with somebody who honestly was one of his adversaries, me. And I just want to share that with the world. And I hope that maybe it might help somebody on both sides deal with issues more like he did.
I like Van Jones. I do. I know a lot of folks on the left don't really have much use for him, but I like him. He seems like a nice guy. He seems like a genuine guy. But I understand why he is such a source of aggravation to progressives, because he aggravates the shit out of me too. And it's because of videos like that. Van Jones, you sweet summer child, to go on television so he releases this video where it's just him recording on his phone and he says what he said. And then he goes on TV on CNN later with Anderson Cooper and he expands on it. To put this out in public, to share this as though it means anything at all. Look, everybody. Look how Charlie Kirk responded to he and I having disagreements in public. We were arguing and fighting over things that Charlie Kirk was saying. And he reached out in private to me because he wanted to have a dialogue. And he wanted to invite me on his show to be a guest. And he promised to conduct himself as a gentleman. Because that's what Charlie Kirk really wanted. He just wanted conversation. He just wanted an exchange of ideas. He was a civil, decent man. And wouldn't it be nice if more people in this world, in this harshly divided world of ours, where we're so tribal along political lines, wouldn't it be nice if we could follow the example of Charlie Kirk and do what he did when he reached out to me in private and invited me on his show? Can Van Jones possibly be this naive? I mean, does he really believe that this message from Charlie Kirk meant anything? Or is he just pretending that he believes that because he thinks it will help to lower the temperature, or because he thinks he's trying to do some positive thing in the wake of all of the anger and the using Charlie Kirk's death as an excuse by the right to target people even more aggressively? Like, maybe Van Jones thinks he's doing a good thing, but in the effort of doing that good thing, he is contributing to the sanitizing and the reputation laundering of Charlie Kirk. So whether Van Jones really believes what he says in that video or not is kind of irrelevant, because he's contributing to the idea that, oh, Charlie Kirk, he wasn't an inflammatory right-wing bigot and misogynist and xenophobe who made a career of saying outrageous things and played a major role in the MAGA movement coming to the forefront of American politics, and all of the truly unforgivable, terrible, destructive things that Charlie Kirk was a part of. No, he was really just a decent guy who wanted to have debates with people he disagreed with. And isn't it a shame that more people can't be like him? Isn't that too bad? And maybe we should all just try to be that from now on. I don't think I can put my response to Van Jones saying this any better than it was put on Threads by, I almost said my friend, my acquaintance, Francesca Ramsey. I think the world of Francesca. She and I, we're acquainted. We've spoken to each other over private message here and there over the years. We're not like super close buddies or anything, but I think the world of her. She started out on YouTube doing her own videos, and then eventually she did the Decoded series for MTV, and then she's gone on from there to have a great career as a writer and an actor. And I'm just incredibly happy to, see her success. And I followed her happily with great enthusiasm for years. And she replied to Van Jones on Threads. Van Jones posted the video of his CNN appearance about this message from Charlie Kirk. And Francesca Ramsey replied to his post on Threads and put it as plainly and simply as I think it can be put. He wanted to monetize a conversation with you. And Francesca would know, because this is actually how Francesca and I became acquainted many years ago, because Francesca and I, once upon a time, when she was still a lowly YouTuber as well, Francesca and I were part of a group of YouTubers, part of a group of progressive YouTubers, people who talked about issues of race and of gender and, were supportive of LGBTQ people and were supportive of feminism and women's issues and pushed back against the anti-feminist Gamergate manosphere, content that was extremely prevalent and extremely aggressive on YouTube at the time. And we were targeted by a lot of the same people. There was this group of really just, the shittiest people on YouTube, basically, who just built their audiences by attacking feminists, by attacking not women in general, but feminists in particular, and attacking people that they perceived as being too progressive or too, what now we would say, too quote unquote woke. Back then the preferred term was SJW, social justice warrior. And so Francesca and I kind of met each other online because we were taking flack from the usual suspects. Like, we were both targets of the same group of people. So she and I would both know from experience what Charlie Kirk was doing, because the people that harassed us back in the day were doing the exact same act that Charlie Kirk was doing. It's just that Charlie Kirk was able to do it eventually on a much bigger platform than most of them were ever able to do. But it's the exact same act. And the act is basically this. You say derogatory, inflammatory, outrageous, offensive, bigoted things. You attack social progress. You attack social justice. You attack human rights movements. You attack feminists. You attack gay rights activists and trans rights activists and immigrants' rights activists and people who advocate for rights and equality for all kinds of marginalized groups. You attack them, you belittle them, you paint them and the groups themselves, the marginalized people, as threats, as outsiders, as others. You say the grossest, most disgusting, bigoted shit you can possibly say. And when someone challenges you, you target that person, you attack them personally by name, you lead harassment campaigns against them. You encourage, usually not directly, but the message gets across nonetheless. You encourage your followers and the people who agree with you to attack them and besiege them on social media, in many cases to harass them right off of social media platforms. That happened time and time again, where people said, you know what? It's not worth the hassle. I'm not going to do YouTube videos anymore. I'm not going to post on Twitter anymore. I'm just leaving social media. I'm leaving the internet altogether. Because these people, these anti-feminists, these racists, these bigots, these xenophobes, they have bullied me off of social media. That happened over and over and over again. And there was a mob of people who would have loved to do that to Francesca Ramsey and me and Anita Sarkeesian and a bunch of other people who were similarly targeted. But what happens is you do that, the Charlie Kirks of the world, they do that, and then once they've made an enemy out of somebody, once they've made a scapegoat out of somebody, and their audience knows this person's name, they invite them on. They say, listen, come on the stream, come on the live stream, come on the podcast, come on the YouTube channel. We'll talk about it. Let's have a conversation. The exact same people who were just harassing you and calling you a piece of shit and calling you a liar and lying about you and defaming you and belittling you and bullying you in front of their audience of applauding goons. Now they're saying, come on the show. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a debate. Exactly what Charlie Kirk did to Van Jones. Exactly. I've been talking shit about you to my audience, and my audience all hates you, and I've been lying about you and misrepresenting you. But come on my show, let's have a conversation. Let's have a civil conversation. For a period of a few years, I was targeted by people like this. Not just me, but my then wife. We have since divorced, but at the time, my wife was targeted by them too. They made her life online miserable for no reason. For no reason other than she was associated with me and they attacked her. They attacked her to her face. They bullied her directly when they could find her online. And they attacked her and insulted her and belittled her to me. And then some of these same people would either reach out to me directly or more often would reach out to me through intermediaries and say, oh, so-and-so would like you to come on his YouTube channel and have a debate about feminism. Have a debate about trans people. Have a debate about whatever they were mad at me for supporting, right? Now just imagine that. This person has spent hours in their public content, made multiple videos, numerous videos, slandering me, attacking my wife. And now they're saying, let's have a civil conversation. So my response, and I think for the most part, Francesca's response, I don't want to speak for her, but if I remember correctly, for the most part, her response as well, and the response of most of the other people who, like me, were targeted by these assholes, my response was to just ignore them. I didn't even write back. I didn't say, oh, thanks, but no thanks, not really my cup of tea. No, I just ignored them. If I had responded, my response would have been, fuck you, burn in hell. You're dead to me. You talk shit about me, you talk shit about my wife. You tried to make my experience online, which is where I earn my living, as miserable as you possibly could. Fuck you. You get nothing from me. You think I'm going to come on your channel and help you make more money off of me? By legitimizing, by making this seem like it's a two-way thing? Like, oh, we're just having a disagreement, and let's settle it now. No, dude. This isn't a two-way thing. This is you trying to get at me and me ignoring you. But for some reason, when Charlie Kirk tried that move on Van Jones didn't recognize it for what it was. For some reason, when Charlie Kirk sent the, hey, let's get you on the show and we can talk about it message to Van Jones's response was, I think I've misjudged him. What a gentleman. He wants to hash out our disagreements in a civilized forum. He didn't think, this fucking hack. He didn't think, this fucking fraud. He's been beefing with me in public over shit, and now he wants me to come on his show and legitimize him and make it seem like our disagreement is something that should be argued about? Yeah, sure. Let me go on the podcast of this fascist and argue with him about his fascist beliefs, as though these are things that warrant serious discussion, as though these are things that deserve to be treated with respect and debated intellectually, as though the way to defeat fascism is to win arguments with fascists on their shows. So I ask again, can Van Jones possibly be this fucking naive? And I really have no idea. I do know this. The only legitimate response to an invitation like that from Charlie Kirk is radio silence. The only legitimate response to people like Charlie Kirk in general is radio silence, is to freeze them out as much as possible. Because if you engage with them at all, you're giving them what they want. Because what people like Charlie Kirk want, what the people who harassed me back in the day want, and certainly wanted back then. What they want is legitimacy. What they want is to have their toxic views, their hatred, their ignorance, their bigotry normalized. They want to go mainstream because mainstream is where the money is and mainstream is where the power is. And if you acknowledge them and treat them as though their ignorant, repugnant beliefs are worthy of conversation, if you act as though it's worth it to you to take time out of your finite existence on this planet and sit down across a table from them, either literally or virtually, and debate whether or not, let's say, the Civil Rights Act should have been passed, debate whether or not transgender people should be treated like human beings and have human rights and be given the same respect that everybody else gets, debate whether or not Palestinian children deserve to be bombed out of existence. Palestinian people in general deserve to be bombed out of debate whether or not that's a legitimate point of view. Sit down across from a fascist and argue about his fascist beliefs. And you have sent the message to people that you think it's worth doing that you think their views are legitimate enough to argue about. That's what they want. And we see in the United States, and more broadly, all across the world, but specifically here in the United States over the last 10 years, we have seen the result of that. We have seen the result of mainstreaming people like Donald Trump and treating them like they're just another political candidate. They're just another politician. The things they say, well, we can debate. It's just like debating tax policy. What do you think? What do you think? Should we snatch suspected undocumented immigrants up off the street and ship them away to countries they're not even from? What do you think? Let's have a debate over that. Should we declare trans people to be a violent terrorist group because of the actions of a tiny handful of people who may or may not have been trans themselves or motivated by anger on behalf of trans people themselves? Let's have a debate about that. Let's treat that like a legitimate question. That does no good for anyone except for the Charlie Kirks, except for the Donald Trumps and the Stephen Millers and all of the other fucking nightmares of human beings. The Nazis, the bigots, the fascists who have taken far more than their share of power and space in our culture and in our politics over the last 10 years because the rest of us gave it to them. Because the rest of us, or at least enough of the rest of us, were under this foolish impression that all you have to do is win the argument. All you have to do, because if people hear Charlie Kirk and Van Jones arguing about this stuff, well, Van Jones, of course, he's going to have the better arguments, and people are going to hear the show, and they're going to come away saying, you know what? I've been wrong about a lot of things, and I agree with Van Jones, and I'm not going to support Charlie Kirk and what he stands for anymore. I'm going to move further to the left now. Sure. And I think the last 10 years of American history proves how valid that is. Van Jones should know better. Charlie Kirk offered him a transaction. He tried to get him to give him something. He said, come on my show. He didn't reach out in private and say, listen, man, just between the two of us, nobody else listening, nobody else watching, I'm sorry for some of the things I said about you. And I hope you'll forgive me. Charlie Kirk didn't say that. He said, come on my show. And Van Jones was like, what a great guy. What a great guy. You know, maybe if he hadn't been killed, I would have gone on a show and then maybe we would have been friends. We would have become really good friends, like maybe Bill Maher and Donald Trump have become. Oh, if only. If only. Being naive, being genuinely naive is forgivable up to a point. But there does come a point where you really need to screw your head on. And Van Jones is way past that point, especially when it comes to people like Charlie Kirk. Way past that point. There's an old bit of advice that says, have an open mind, but not so much that your brain falls out. Your brain's falling out, Van. You're going to have to tuck it back in there. Close it up a little bit. Don't close it all the way, but close it up enough so that it's not falling out anymore. That's a bad look. It's a real bad look. I mean, there's no shame in being made the mark of a con man, because it could happen to any of us. We are all susceptible to that, whether we think we are or not. We can all find ourselves being fooled, being conned. We can all find ourselves in the role of a mark, despite our best efforts. But it's quite another thing when it seems like a mark is what you want to be. When you get to that point, it's time to reassess.